Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile.
Juan Ponce Enrile Jr., or simply Jack Enrile, is the only son and namesake of Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile.
Siya lang ang aking anak na lalaki. Wala nang iba.
Currently serving as the 1st District Representative of Cagayan, he authored the recently passed Kasambahay Law and the Anti-Monopoly Bill. He also voted in favor of the Reproductive Health Law and the Freedom of Information Act. In the latest senatorial survey of the social weather stations, Jack Enrile seems to be benefiting from his father's popularity.
Ikinakandidato ko ang aking anak bilang senador ng Pilipinas.
For campaign purposes, Jack has used the name Juan Ponce Enrile Jr. instead of the nickname he is known as. He currently ranks 9th. But many issues are still left unanswered. In the meantime, is he a man apart from JPE? The 2013 midterm polls are shaping up to be an exciting one. I'm Nancy Irlanda, and this is Elections 2013. With me is our resident election analyst, former COMELEC Commissioner, Attorney Gregorio Larazabal. Hello, Goyo.
Evening.
And for the second episode of our Know Your Candidate series, we've got the son of the third most powerful man in the country. We'd like to welcome the representative of the 1st District of Cagayan, Congressman Juan Ponce Jack Enrile Jr.
Nancy, good evening. Attorney Goyo, good evening to you.
Well, Mr. Congressman, the social weather station survey, the latest one at least, has you at number 9. Does that make you more relaxed or more pressured? Where are you?
It's the pressure is always on. If you're a candidate, you basically cannot let up. The surveys are but a snapshot of how the people view a candidate at a particular point in time. So it can go up, it can go down, depending on the exposure, depending on the views that are espoused by the candidate. And because of that, you're always on the edge. You're always keeping your game up in common parlance today. So the expectations that a candidate perhaps has at the beginning of a campaign season may be entirely different towards the end. And we just move on, we just try and do the best that we can and hope for the best.
All right, there have been some comments that the respondents to these surveys have mistaken you for your more popular father.
Well,
your feeling on that?
Undoubtedly, my father has extremely high exposure. He has been in public life for 47 years now. And perhaps very early in the exercise, there was perhaps some misunderstanding as to who the candidate is. I'm junior, so I'm Juan Ponce Enrile Jr. I go by the name of Jack. When I was young, I was known as Jackie. Obviously, Jackie is a girl's name, so we sort of changed that when I was in my late teens. Is it an advantage? Is it a disadvantage? It will really depend on how people view my father. And after October 1st, after filing, and after a little bit of exposure as far as the media is concerned, I would hope that people by now would know that it is Jack Enrile and not the father that is actually running.
But what do you say about some people voting for candidates because they're in the top 12? For example, for the senatorial candidates, like, since you're in the top 12, people will just vote for you or another candidate instead of just looking at the credentials.
Well, unfortunately, it is one part of our culture, and two, it's basically the system that we have as we have it right now. There are no clear programs of government. There are really no clear platforms. So people tend to be personality-oriented when it comes to their choices. And having a famous father who has been in the forefront of political life over the last 4 decades certainly has its advantages when things are going well.
Yes.
And perhaps there is a disadvantage when things aren't going as well. So it works both ways, and we see that in this roller coaster ride that we call campaigning.
They always see the good side of it, but there's like you mentioned, there's a bad side to it, because if there can be a bad side. Negative media against your dad, you also get affected, right?
Absolutely, and that is part and parcel of this exercise. It is accepted, has been accepted by our family from the very beginning. It has been accepted by my family from the very beginning. And we hope to see this exercise through until May.
Okay, let me expand that conversation on the association with your father. If you heard me say that your political career is largely due to whom you call dad, what would you tell me?
I would say that perhaps for now, people, whenever they think of Enrile, it would be my father. It's very difficult for someone with the same name to live up to the image that a great man like my father has established. Am I living under the shadow of my father? Perhaps for now, I am. But I would hope that if I be given the opportunity, that people will get to see who Jack Enrile is. And that obviously that will take time. My father, like I said, has been in public life for 47 years. He is almost 89 years old. I am but 54. And who knows what's going to happen to Jack if he should reach the ripe old age of 89.
Congressman Jack, you've been a congressman for 3 terms already.
For 4 terms.
For 4 terms. And in those 4 terms, people would ask, oh, what have you done as a congressman to merit or to let me vote for you or earn my vote for you?
Yes. In the 11th Congress, I was the only member of Congress that filed a bill that is now known as Batas Kasambahay. I was the first one to do so. I filed that in the 11th, 12th, and 13th Congress. It passed third and final reading in the House of Representatives twice in the 12th and 13th Congress, but it did not prosper in the Senate. Luckily, we have a progressive-minded president that certified the Batas Kasambay as a priority bill. And after 14 years, it has finally become law. And I am happy to have been participant with that particular process. And now we can claim that there is authorship in terms of one law as far as Jack Enrile is concerned.
And a very important law.
And a very important law, I would like to think so.
Nancy?
Yeah, your father is currently in the midst of political turmoil.
Isn't
Senate
he?
President Juan Ponce is putting it mildly,
Yes.
especially as it applies or relates to his chief of staff, Attorney Gigi
Attorney
Reyes.
Gigi, yes.
Your take on this whole
Well,
incident?
again, as I mentioned earlier, it's unfortunate that at this stage in his political career, if you track the life of my father, it's never been an easy road. It's somewhat been bumpy all his life. Now that he is basically gearing towards retirement age.
Just when we thought the impeachment was a shining moment.
Just when we thought that the impeachment was a shining moment, in comes this particular controversy right now. But that's been the life of my father. If you track his political career, he's had a very storied and colorful career. Am I sad that this happens at this point in his career? Certainly so. Will it affect me? Perhaps. Do I stand behind my father? Absolutely. Whatever decision my father has made, I believe he has had a reason to do so. And the controversy surrounding his chief of staff is something that I guess the people someday will probably have to form their own opinions on.
So it's interesting that the controversy in the Senate happened right at the time that the survey was supposed to be conducted for the latest poll. And do you think this will affect the latest surveys to be released probably next week or the week after?
Perhaps. We accept the realities of political life. And people's opinions change over time. And whatever may be thrown against a candidate does affect it. And the fortunes, unfortunately, I cannot distance myself from my father because he is my father. Yeah. I love him very dearly, and I think he loves me as well. And I will take the rises and the falls and the punches with that of my father, and hopefully things work out okay.
Naturally, you'd like to make your name as your own man.
If given the chance.
If given the chance,
yes,
of course. And so, further to that, what would you have done differently from your father? Looking back at his career, 47 years in politics.
I think people think that a son necessarily mirrors or adapts the character of a father. In our case, it's very, very different. My father and I are basically two different personalities. There are some traits that are passed on, I guess, from one generation to the next. But in terms of our personalities and characters, I think people will see, those that know, that there is a great difference. I tend not to be as emotional as my father.
But basically what you're saying is that your dad did not mold you to be the person like he is. He let you be.
My father allowed myself and my sister to chart our own paths in life. And I guess that is the fortune of being a son to my father and my mother. Give her credit where credit is due. I love you, Mom. And I think the greatest gift that they gave me and my sister was the ability for us to decide for ourselves how we want to live our lives. And we have made our mistakes. We have learned from our mistakes, and now we have moved on.
All right, you said that you were given a free hand and what to do with your life. I suppose that answers my next question, which should have been, at any point, were you a reluctant politician? Or you felt that this was your lot in life?
No, actually, I keep telling people, even today, I was telling people, if you talked to me 15 years ago and you would say, oh, Jack, I can see into the future, 15 years from now, you'll be running for the Senate, I probably would have said you were crazy. I basically was in private life and for the first 4 decades of my life, happily. I was just running a business, my businesses and the family's businesses, and never thought of myself following in my father's footsteps until one eventful day in December of 1997, wherein basically I was hurled into the political arena, and he announced that I was running for Congress without necessarily consulting me. And the rest is history. I won 3 consecutive runs in Cagayan. Quit for 1 term and then came back in 2010. And it's been a learning experience for me. This is an opportunity that I probably will say this is the first and only time that I will probably seek a higher position. And if the Filipino people do not agree that I should be there, then I will just sort of fade slowly away and resume my life.
Cycle away, right?
Cycle away as a private individual. Yeah.
Oh, let's talk about the practical aspects. How much money is in your campaign now, and how are you spending it?
The kitty is not very big. Most of the funds really are spent on the sorties going around. We have allocated a certain amount for the advocacy ads that have come out. I think somewhere in the neighborhood of about 30 million has been spent over the last several months. I think we started in October. Yeah. And you know, the day-to-day can get expensive. Depending on the generosity of people that believe in Jack Enrile, sometimes the kitty gets big and then it's depleted and then it grows again. So from one day to the next, we really don't know how much is left in the kitty, and we hope that we have enough till the end of the campaign period. Even
in recent past elections, the battlefront has moved to social media.
It is social media. How
much of your campaign is social media and still doing the sorties?
Doing the sorties has taken up a lot of my time. We have employed people that really understand social media. I am not a social media guy. Never claimed to be. I sort of don't know, and I'm uncomfortable in social media only because I'm not as techie as most people think we should be at this point in time. But most of my time is really spent going around the country. I've been to 75 provinces already. The last one was in Masbate and in Sorsogon just this week, and I enjoy that. My wife monitors the social media for me. And I have a couple of friends that also help me, and if I need to answer, like today I needed to answer a few issues, we reply and they type much faster than
All
I
right,
do.
We're going to pick up on this conversation, but first we're going to have to go to a break. Up next, more views from Congressman Jack Enrile. Stay tuned. You're watching Elections 2013. watching Elections 2013. Still with us is Cagayan 1st District Representative and also Senatorial Candidate Jack Enrile. Goyo, you've got the first question.
I was wondering, Jack, Congressman Jack, that
Jack.
Everybody's focused now on social media, but how do you compare this with the need to shake the hand of the voters? Because everybody's like Twitter, Facebook, but they don't. There's no personal interaction between the voters.
Pressing the flesh.
And how do you distinguish which is more important?
The warmth is lacking in social media, and the intimacy, the eye contact, the hugs, the clapping, the shaking of hands, the pressing of the flesh.
Or the feeling of importance as you went to a far-flung barangay to see them.
And to see them, and the smiles that you actually see, you know, the reactions in their eyes, and how they treat you. Although social media is the future, and depending on the rate of penetration, I foresee that, you know, over the course of perhaps within our generation, everybody will be voting online, and everybody will be interacting, hopefully, with their laptops and what, you know, seeing to the future. That's the way how elections are going to be conducted.
All right. There's no segueing here. I'm going to come right out and ask it. You're the 9th top absent congressman in Congress.
Oh,
the 9th.
Yeah. Well.
Why are you missing so many sessions?
Well, I did not have a committee to run this 15th Congress. And so I thought the best way for me to make use of my time, instead of just getting dressed, wearing a tie or a barong and doing a roll call in the House of Representatives, was really to go around the country and get a feel. And I had this one particular advocacy that I wanted to push, my food sovereignty bill, House Bill 4626, the Food for Filipinos First Act. And I wanted to get inputs very early on, right after the elections, the last elections in 2010. So I've been going around, conducting several sectoral consultations on one bill. On one bill alone, I've conducted my 95th sectoral consultation in Masbate the other day. And the take-up is very, very good. I'm really happy being able to hear firsthand what our farmers and fisher folk actually need and what their hopes are and aspirations are for this country. And that, I think, was time well spent. Unfortunately, when you're doing this, you're on business, and on business basically is counted as not being present. But for me, it's more productive. Now, had I a committee or a different responsibility, then perhaps I would spend more time in Batasan. But not having had that and being just part of a few committees, agriculture being one of them, and having had this advocacy and this burning desire to really understand this particular issue, I think time was well spent out in the field.
So you decided to take it to the road,
Take it on the road. Take it on the road. That's the way. Get a feel for it. You know, nothing beats first-hand information.
All right, car smuggling in Cagayan, Cagayan Economic Zone Authority. It's been sticking that you're involved in that.
Yeah,
it doesn't want to go away.
I absolutely have nothing to do with that. I don't own a business in Cagayan. The only property that I have in Cagayan is the house in Apari. People have been throwing that issue at us, the family, since I think 2007, when they started locating there and bringing cars in. Smuggling, there has not been any instance of anybody coming up with any document that can show smuggling. Everything has been above board. The Cagayan Economic Zone Authority has been run quite adequately and well by Administrator Ponce, no relation to us. And I believe that it has brought a lot of benefits to our constituents in Cagayan. Jobs have been created, lives have been changed, the community is actually growing, and it's been a good thing for the people of Cagayan.
How about the illegal mining of magnetite? That's a newer issue than the car smuggling.
There is no illegal mining of magnetite. All the claims have been applied for, or the permits have gone through due process. If you take a look at Gonzaga, and I urge everybody who's interested, if you really want to see the impact of responsible mining, the town of Gonzaga, our hometown, is a great example. Come and see for yourself the development and how the operators are actually operating there, and you will see an aspect of the mining industry that is quite favorable.
So, Congressman Jack, we've heard your advocacies as a congressman, and as a voter, people ask, you know, to earn our vote, what are your programs if you become a senator? You have like at least 3 or 5 or what, or at least 1 program?
Well, instead of answering why you should vote for Jack Enrile, may I answer by saying why I'm running? I discovered that over the course of 3 or 4 terms, something that I consider to be true. We are still an agricultural country. 70% of our population still live in rural areas, and 90% of our kababayans who live in rural areas make their living out of the land that they till or the waters that they ply to catch fish and food, or to sell and to eat for themselves and their families. And if we are, it's a no-brainer. If we are really serious in propping up the economy and having something that we can consider truly sustainable, we need to prop up these local farm communities around, which is what we have done in Cagayan over the course of 5 election cycles.
So how do we prop them up?
We prop them up by introducing the right kind of programs. First, we need an agriculture first policy in this country. And the cornerstone of that particular agricultural policy must center around the concept of food sovereignty, wherein we localize production, we localize distribution, and we localize consumption, and ensure that each and every province in this country has adequate supply and capability to feed its citizens.
But the question here is, how does this jive with the CARP law? And how does this work together with the intent and trust of the government to industrialize basically the countryside and forgo agriculture but go industrial?
All the countries that have actually been successful at industrializing have adopted an agriculture first policy to begin with. They have first sought ways to solve the hunger problems and the poverty in the countryside even before they were able to industrialize. China did that, Taiwan did that, Japan did that, Korea did that, New Zealand and Australia have done that, the United States did that, the European Union countries have done that. And we as a country have sort of, the agricultural sector in our country has sort of fallen through the cracks because of globalization. We've globalized without the necessary safeguards for our small-scale food producers, that today they are no longer competitive with foreign imports. We are actually, because we are importing so much of what we eat on a daily basis, we are actually subsidizing the agricultural sectors of the people that we are actually trading. But if we localize, we have the right policies, we have the right programs, we allocate the right resources for the right programs, tailor-made for every province to maximize on each agricultural potential, prices of food will start to go down and people will have livelihoods in the countryside.
Right, your father is a staunch critic of the reproductive health law. You voted for it.
Yes.
Is that a deliberate effort to show that you're your own man?
No, I don't differentiate just to be different. There are some issues wherein I will agree with my father, and there are a lot of issues that he and I are not on the same page on. And on the reproductive health, I have to admit that in the beginning, I was not for it. But as I was able to go around the country and see the actual situation on the countryside, and asking the mothers and the fathers, why is it that you have 8, 9, 10 children? Are you able to feed them? Have you planned for this many children? And normally the answer is no. They have no way to plan it. Basically, when they become intimate, the mother bears a child, and they just have to adapt. And I said, aren't you worried about haven't you even thought of contraception? And they go, we don't even have enough food to eat. How do you expect us to buy contraceptive measures to plan our families? We want to be helped. We need help, and we want to be given the opportunity to better the lives of the future generations of our family.
All right, you are squarely behind the Freedom of Information Bill. What is your feeling on President Aquino still waffling on certifying the bill as urgent?
Well, it was a promise that the president made when he ran for president in 2010, and the bill has been out there. I signed the petition to pass it as quickly as possible. And I believe it came out in the papers a year ago that we were a group of congressmen urging the president to push this forth. I cannot speak for the president. I do not understand the reasons why. Perhaps he has his reasons why he is at this point not yet willing to push it forth. But let's give him time. He still has 3 years.
Yeah.
He still has 3 years. He still has 3 years to see this through, and perhaps he can make good on his campaign promise.
All right, as the founder of the Philippine Practical Shooting Association, PPSA, and also the director of the International Practical Shooting Confederation, what is your stand on banning guns?
A total gun ban never works. Never worked in any country. Doesn't work here. The incidence of crimes in England and in Australia and even in Canada, where they have had a rigorous ban on firearms. The program has been going on for several years. If you track down the crime rate, it has steadily been going up. What we need to do really here is do more stringent background checks on individuals. Ensure that responsible owners are given the chance to, should they choose to, own a firearm for protection or sport and recreation, and give them the wherewithal to have peace of mind at night, should they use it for self-protection. For me, let's look at the law, yes. Let's rationalize it. I would suggest that instead of licensing the firearms, license the gun holder. Okay. Make the requirements more stringent, register all firearms, and adopt a one-strike policy.
But what can you say about the seemingly rampant crimes, high-profile crimes being committed all over the metropolis now, targeting specifically malls?
Now that there is a gun ban, the bad elements will say, hey, it's open season now. There's nobody carrying guns out there. We can do what we want. And that is exactly what is happening right now.
All right, you said your intentions in running is part of the pursuit of a so-called second chance. What do you mean by that exactly?
Well, had I known in 1998 what I know now, perhaps I would have treated my political career a little bit differently. But having had the opportunity to win again in 2010, and having been urged by people around the country, as I have been going around pushing for this House Bill 4626 and introducing the bill to different sectors, this is probably my one and only chance, really, to take this advocacy of mine to the next level. And I would really like perhaps to be given the chance to see what 6 years of work can do to address our need to be able to upgrade the capability of this country to feed itself.
All right, I don't want to be the 1 millionth person to ask you this question, but in the 80s you were the stereotypical bad boy.
Yeah.
You've been linked to the murders of Alfie Anido, then the boyfriend of your sister, yes. Katrina. Yes. Also a certain Ernest Lucas.
Yes.
Did you commit these crimes?
No, I did not. I never fired Nancy a shot in anger in my entire life.
Okay, I'm going to pick up on that and say you've been quoted before as answering this question in this manner, that you've never killed a person with your own hands. Is that a way of like skirting or diverting?
No, and I've never been a participant in any murder or shooting in my life. Never asked anybody to do that for me. Categorically deny having anything to do with Alfie Anido. The unfortunate thing with Ernest Lucas, it was an accident. The gun of then Danny, my bodyguard, went off, and sadly, Ernest was killed on that night, and there's not.
It's not because that your blood pressure shot up because he was from LaSalle, you were from Ateneo.
No, he was my friend.
He was your friend.
Yeah, he was my friend. We knew each other, and unfortunately, when you're 16 years old and you're under the influence of alcohol, and Ernest was.
But you weren't at that time?
No, I did not drink alcohol. I was not drunk at that time, And the NBI tests, I subjected myself to NBI, and they found the negative traces. So there was no gunpowder on me.
All right.
And the
Well,
unfortunate thing really was that Ernest passed away.
Well, thank you for clarifying that. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Congressman. And Nancy?
Yeah, on that note, Juan Ponce Castañer,
Thank you
Enrile
for the
Jr.,
opportunity.
Jack for sure,
I
thanks for
appreciate it.
coming to
Thank
the
you.
program.
Thank
And
you.
good luck. Good
Thank
luck
you.
on your campaign.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Tune in again next week as we try and make this vote count. I'm Nancy Irlanda, and this is Elections 2013.